Pushed it, Jenny.
Okay, it just said you're live on my end. Okay. We have sat here for like 2 minutes trying to decide whether we're actually live or not.
All right. That's kind of our thing.
So hi everyone. Welcome to the Isn't It Romantic Book Club live stream discussion with Xio about her book, The Girl with Stars in Her Eyes.
That's a great book.
Oh my gosh, such a good book. And if you all haven't listened, if you haven't listened to the music from the Lilies, you've got to go on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you get your tunes and listen to it because it's so cool. So I'm going to start out introducing myself. I'm Abbie Roads. I write dark romantic thrillers. I tell people to think like an episode of Criminal Minds meets a love story with a twist of paranormal. Also, I want to tell everybody that we are live streaming in a whole bunch of places tonight. We're live streaming into My Dangerously Dark Darlings. We're live streaming into our Isn't It Romantic Book Club group. We're on YouTube. We're in Casablanca Books. We're in Midnight in the Garden. We're in Jenny's Page Turners. And we're in Team Source Books. So we are all over tonight. If you're here, make sure that you leave a comment, say hello. We love having questions. If you have questions for Xio or any of us, or just comments, anything like that, we love to see those comments and questions. So
you're automatically entered for prizes.
Yes.
Every time you leave a comment. So
yes. So be sure to comment a whole bunch. We love that.
Yeah.
Hi, Chelsea.
So who's next?
Okay, I'll go next. My name is Sharon Wray. I write dark romantic suspense with sexy extreme berets. First 2 books in the series, and the most current one, In Search of Truth, is out. And think like Dan Brown type mysteries, but with really hot men and very nice adult situations. And the next book in the series, Love's Last Kiss. I don't know if you can see that because it's laminated.
No, that's good.
Okay, oh, I love that cover.
I love it too. It comes out this fall, so I'm very, very excited about that. Hey, Jenny.
Hey, Jenny.
So, I will go next. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because my dog just
I saw him
on her own, and I am totally like, business on top, party on the bottom. I've got like shorts on, so I don't really want to jump up and go pull that door shut, but no. I may end up doing it. So little Maggie just came right in.
Who are you, Jenny? Tell us.
Who am I? I am Jennie Marts, and I write what do I write? Small town stories with humor and heart. And I write cozy mysteries, and I write my latest series is the Credence Horse Rescue series. And When a Cowboy Loves a Woman is the newest book in the series. Cowboy State of Mind is the first one. And I just write sexy, hot, hockey-playing cowboys that rescue horses, apparently.
And they're firefighters.
And what?
They're sometimes firefighters.
Sometimes firefighters, yes. My latest book from Hallmark is Blacksmith. So hunky country boys, I got them.
Awesome. And my name is Diana Muñoz Stewart. I write romantic suspense for the strong of heart. My Black Ops Confidential series is already out. Includes I Am Justice, The Price of Grace, and The Cost of Honor. And the first book of my new series, Broken Promises, is out this week. Can you guys see that?
Oh.
It's a little fuzzy. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, so if you think luring a serial killer out to a cabin in the woods is a bad idea, worse idea is doing so with your ex-fiance. So sparks will fly.
I can't wait to get my copy. It's supposed to arrive tomorrow.
Mine does too. I think mine does too.
Aw, that's sweet. Thanks, guys. And we're here to talk with Xio Axelrod about her book, The Girl with Stars in Her Eyes. And Xio Axelrod is a USA Today bestselling author. She writes different flavors of contemporary romance and what she likes to call strange, twisted tales. Xio grew up in the recording industry and began performing at a very young age. As a result, her knowledge of popular music is nearly encyclopedic. Oh, well, that's a challenge there. Seriously, look her up on quiz night. She might even be up for some karaoke. A completely unapologetic, badge-wearing, fic-writing fangirl, Xio finds inspiration in everything around her, from her quirky neighbors to the lyrics of whatever song she currently has on repeat. To the latest clips from her favorite TV series, Scam, Xio weaves her passion into her books, and if you're curious about Scam, ask her about it. Just be prepared to settle in for the long haul. Oh, I've never heard of Scam. When she isn't working on the next story, Xio can be found behind a microphone in a studio, writing songs in her bedroom turned recording booth, or performing in international stages under a different, not so secret name. Welcome. Welcome, Xio. Not chatting. There we go. Hi.
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 How are you guys?
God, that's a really good biography.
Thank you. It's fun.
So you have been writing music since you were young, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been performing since I think my first professional recording, I was 4 or something like that. I don't think I wrote music, like songs, until much later, but my father's a songwriter, and so I grew up, following his career, and I've lots of musical people in my family. So yeah, I just basically grew up in studios and on stages and backstage and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a big part of my life.
So cool.
And I think that's why your book is so authentic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just felt like I was getting insight into, kind of, something, a backstage pass almost into,
Oh, cool. That's what I wanted. I wanted to do that. To invite people.
You did a great job.
I knew nothing about how music was made. It was really interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, I kind of like how you wove the past and the present. And I never felt like off, I never felt like, jarred or.
Yeah, I was going to say too jarring a transition.
Very smooth. Yeah. Was that hard to write? Like,
it's difficult to write that. I've only done it once before, and I did it in a novella, and it was alternating chapters rather than flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But Tony's backstory and her backstory with Seb was so big that I didn't want to put it all in dialogue. It was just a lot. And I was how can I do this? And I don't do a lot of prologues either. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write a prologue. So it was just a matter of sort of weaving, her past and her present together to see how it affected her and why she made the decisions she's made, and Seb too. Yeah.
And I loved how you did it so, I don't know. It seemed like whenever you went to the past was at a super exciting part. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, how long am I going to have to wait? I could get back. And then you just gave this little short piece. And I thought you just did that masterfully. Of how you put in just enough of the past to, let us know what happened, let us know where they were, and move forward.
Yeah, I was trying to bring it into, especially the chapter, if there was a moment in the chapter that referenced it or was influenced by it, whether it's really obvious or not. It was this was a moment and this might have something to do with what's happening right now, that kind of thing.
And I will say, I think it's totally brilliant that she's named Tony Bennett.
Oh, I love that.
Totally brilliant.
You need to give us more about that. Tell us what the inspiration was for that or how that came about.
Well, it's actually because I have quite a few people in my family who are well known. And so I also have a lot of people in my family who have really famous names who are not well known. I have a couple of Tony Bennett's in my family. There's an Elizabeth Taylor in my family. There are people who've carried the weight of those names around, and they always get the jokes. They always get the, the actress, or you know what I mean? So I wanted to give her that. But also I thought it would be fun to give her the name of someone who was so iconic white male, he's just not her. He's just the opposite of her. And she gets a lot of pushback being who she is, playing the type of music that she does and the situations that she does because of who she is. So I thought having the weight of a name like that just might be a sort of a moment of levity, and sometimes a bit of this is what she's dealing with.
Well, and I think too, it's immediately rememberable. You will never forget that Tony Bennett is in this book. You know what I mean? It's just so memorable with a name like that.
Yeah, it's fun.
I also loved how I lived for 2 years in Philadelphia, and I also loved how you brought in a wonderful element of that city, especially the food.
Tasty cakes.
Yeah, right. I think I sent a case of Tasty Cakes to Sourcebook's office the day the book came out.
Oh,
They wouldn't know what they were, so I was like, "Here's some." I think it had like crimpets and like the peanut butter candy cakes in there and stuff. Yeah,
I don't know what they are either. I
don't either, and I'm just in Ohio. One state.
I didn't know that was a regional thing. I thought they were everywhere.
No, it's like because Hostess is everywhere and like those kind of things. So it's like our version of, but better. But our version of like
much better.
I think they were bought by someone, but the ingredients seem to be more natural, less like chemicals and stuff in it. But it's like when you get out of school, after school, you run to the store and you grab a package of butterscotch crimpets, which are these like sponge cakes with this butterscotch icing on it. Or like a little apple pie, or like the little chocolate candy cakes, which were like basically like a little devil's food cake enrobed in chocolate, and they have peanut butter ones too. Like that was just, that was just the thing. So like when I went to college, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm only in Maryland. You don't have Tasty Cakes down here? What? So I was like bringing them down. And when I moved to London, like I had to, take them with me. So like, yeah, it's a very regional thing. But if you know anyone from Philly and you say Tasty Cakes, you'll either get, oh yeah, or like, it's like a love-hate relationship with them.
I love them. And I was actually born in New York City. So I was very happy though to see the shift from one city to the other. Because I do live in Philadelphia, and I feel like it gets short shrift in the news and everything. Like no one ever sets books there. But it's such a great city to set a book in.
It is. And I think I set almost all of my books are set in Philadelphia, or at least have some tie to Philadelphia. And I really wanted to highlight the music scene here, because I was saying to someone yesterday, like I did a project in Detroit some years ago, and as soon as you land at the airport in Detroit, it's all about Motown. There's like a Motown store and Motown murals and all this stuff. You come to Philly, you wouldn't think that anything ever happened here other than the Liberty Bell and the Declaration of Independence and all that really important historical stuff. But it's like, everything else is kind of swept aside. And so I wanted to celebrate that. My dad is a big part of that legacy. So I wanted to sort of celebrate, him and stuff. So, yeah.
So speaking of your dad, has he read your book?
I don't know. He bought one of the early copies. He reads some of my stuff. Like the first time I released a book, my first novella, I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. I just was trying to figure out if I could write a book that people would buy. And when I did tell them at like a family barbecue or something, everyone was like, oh, I want to read it. And I was telling like cousins and stuff, yeah, you can go to Amazon or whatever. And then when he was like, he wanted to read it, I sent him a PDF with all of the like heat removed from it. Like a clean version of the book. And he was like, no, I want the actual book. So
he gets the censored copy.
He did. He got the G-rated. So I don't know if he's actually ever read it. We don't talk about it. But he's very supportive. Like he was in Barnes & Noble. I think they released the book a week before it came out. They had it on the table in the front of the store. And he went in and took a picture, and he didn't know that the dedication was to him.
Oh,
so he's like broke into tears in the store, and texted me, was angry, not mad, but he was like, "You didn't tell me, I wasn't prepared," And I was like, "Sorry."
Oh, that's sweet.
He's my biggest cheerleader. So.
We have a question from Elizabeth Wash. She says, "What is your favorite book or author?"
Oh wow, that's an impossible question.
I know, right?
I grew up reading a lot of, like, I'm a little goth girl. So I grew up, I was like really into Poe and like all the Shakespeare tragedies. And then when I got older, I was reading like Anne Rice and stuff. And I was like, when people ask me who my favorite author is, I have to say her, because I have everything she's ever written. And like, we just recently did some rearranging downstairs. So I pulled out all my books. I literally have shelves of Anne Rice. I have like audio books on tape, like everything. I was like, I guess she's my favorite. She was pretty influential on my reading voraciously. As a teenager, it was like every time something came out, I just, and her books are thick. So it was like 2 days, I'm through the book, so I was just like devouring them. And I loved her sense of place, her setting. Like she really drops you in New Orleans or wherever it is. Yeah. And you can see and smell and hear it through her words. And so I think that was a big influence on me.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
My
Alicia,
favorite book, I think, is hers. It's The Witching Hour by her.
Okay. And Alicia Haney asks, hi, what is your favorite children's book?
Ooh, my favorite children's book. Well, the most recent one that I loved was Hair Love.
So cute.
Yeah, it's really adorable.
Yeah.
but I think Charlotte's Web was probably the one that I read, or over and over again as a kid, like a lot of people.
That broke my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really drawn to tragedy as a child.
I find it interesting that you put out your book like kind of on the DL and then just told everybody afterwards. And your main character, Tony, is kind of an introvert who's, sort of putting herself out there, but not really wanting to at first.
Yeah.
Are you an introvert? Is that?
I am an introvert, which is surprising to people because I was an actress, I'm a singer. And so like, I can turn it on.
Yeah.
And then like, if I go to a conference, I need like 3 days of recovery time from peopling after I get home.
Same here.
Yeah. But it's definitely one of those things that's bred into you in a performing family. That's like, you got to be on, you gotta, the show must go on, that kind of thing.
I know I've seen you at conferences and we're like at the last day. I'm like, how are you doing? I'm tired. How are you? I'm tired. It's like we're introverted, like out, like I have no more energy.
Yeah. Batteries need replenishing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you guys come hang out with me and I'm like, yeah.
I know, Jennie loved it.
I'm always exhausted and Jennie's dragging me out. Like,
but it's cool hanging out with an extrovert because then you can like say a couple of words and they just take over.
I know. I know. I tell people all the time, it's so much easier as an introvert to make friends with extroverts because they just carry everything. I just sit and listen and nod and you know.
Perfect.
So I have to ask, why am I? Is that like an inside joke?
It is sort of. So the studio and the label are based on real life entities. The studio, Factory Sound, was based on Sigma Sound Studios, which was where I'm trying to think of. Okay, so like I don't know how familiar you are with the 70s Philly soul thing, but like it was the OJs and the Spinners and Sister Sledge and Teddy Pendergrass, all that stuff. Everything was recorded at Sigma Sound Studios. Like every song that you heard that came out of Philly for those, whatever period it was recorded at Sigma Sound, or there was one other studio, but it was really a lot of it was recorded at Sigma Sound. It was our Motown. It was our Muscle Shoals. It was our, place. They sold the building, dissolved the studio like 15 years ago or something. And there was a huge movement to like save it and create like a museum or whatever, but it got turned into condos. This is what I mean about Philly not preserving its legacy. But I have like little Sigma jackets because I used to get them when I would go there, and I would sleep on the couches in the green room while my dad was working, stuff like that. So I wanted to put it in the book, but I couldn't use the name. So I went through like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different studio names because all over the world there are studios in every corner of the planet. And every name is taken, and they were like, you can't use that, you can't use that, you can't use that. I was like, why? Okay, so it's just called Why Am I? Why am I doing this?
Why am I trying?
So the record label was the same thing with the record label. So the record label is Why Am I? The studio is called Factory Sound with PH, which is a nod to my dad because his nickname is PH Factor. And so I just wanted to like build the legacy of Philly into the book, even though I couldn't use the names of the places that are mentioned in the book. Which is fun because I get to build out the universe. Like not only am I doing the Lilies music, but like the Electric Unicorn has a website. The Lilies are on Instagram and all the music sites and stuff like that. So I'm trying to like build this world around the series that people can interact with and stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of fun.
So just reminding everyone, if you haven't had a chance, go check out the Lilies music. Like there's actual songs like from the Lilies that you can go listen to. So make sure you do that.
So did you write that music for this book, or?
The first single that came out was a cover. It was just something that I had done in the studio for fun when I was trying to figure out what the Lily sound was going to be. And we really liked the way it sounded. And I was like, if I were, a band starting out, you do covers, and live anyway, because people don't want to hear your original music if you're not big. They just don't care. They want to hear covers. So they did that, and I was like, okay, well, that might be the song that breaks them. I can do that. But then for the rest of it, I wanted to do original music, and we were supposed to go into the studio last year and record like an entire album of stuff.
Wow.
We couldn't do it because of COVID. And even my studio is now gone permanently, the place that I used to go to. So we are regrouping. But that song, the one that's behind me, the one that's in the book is one of my songs. And I was like trying to figure out what I could use that would sort of sound like the Lilies, and that one was the one that popped up. So, and I think it really fits them. So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm curious to see if, because the sheet music is in some copies, I'm curious to see if people actually do their own versions. There's a challenge.
Oh, that would be cool.
Do your own versions of the song. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that needs to be a contest.
Yeah, it should be.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, that would be a great contest.
Steph, if you're watching, we can do.
That's right.
Cover the
Well,
Lilies.
I had a question about. I just really felt like you did a great job at like making us really feel like each band member. Like I just felt like I was the drummer with Kayla. Like I, you know, just the way that the whatever's brushed across. I mean, I've never played the drums, but I felt like I was like experiencing the kick plate or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And with the bass and the, you know, the guitar and the singing, you know, you just did such a good job on that. So do you play all of those instruments that you like knew all those little pieces, or it's just from the way that you hear them, or?
A little bit of both. I play enough of an instrument to be able to like show the people who really play those instruments what I want. You know what I mean? Piano is my main instrument and voice. And I have guitars, I have basses. I don't have drums. I think my husband would kill me if I got drums. But yeah, like I'm a mellophile, and we used to call it, when I was a kid, I used to joke and say that I was like a walking like phonograph or something, because I can repeat what I hear pretty accurately.
Oh wow.
And so like if I hear a rhythm, or if I hear whatever, or if it's in my head, I can tap it out or play it out, and I know enough about a drum kit to do that. But that is how I hear instruments. Like I hear, when I'm listening to a song, I hear rhythms first, I hear bass and drum first, and it's like weird, it like comes at me in layers.
Oh wow,
and so I
that's
think
cool.
I needed to describe that through how they play, and it's fun to get to do that individually with each musician, and then I finally get to Lily's book at the end, and
that's fascinating, because that's kind of how you develop your characters.
Yeah,
it is. What a parallel. Huh?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, I love.
Have you used a soundboard like that where they were talking about the little? Have you used that? You know how to like do what?
On the production, but yeah. I produce my stuff. I sit next to my engineer, and we go through each wave and pull out stuff, and yeah.
Well, and you know,
sorry, I interrupted you, Sharon.
Oh, it's okay.
go ahead, Sharon.
Oh, I was just gonna say, one of the things I absolutely loved, as much as I loved the hero. I mean, I loved the hero. I loved Quick, but I loved the relationships, the complicated relationships between the women in the band. Because they were, I just thought each one was unique. All the individual relationships with each other, and the way they spoke to each other and deferred to each other or didn't defer to each other, or what they put up with, the boundaries, especially as you could see the changing boundaries the band was placing as they were maturing and, you know, emotionally maturing. I just thought that was brilliant. And I really, so as much as I loved being in Quick's POV, I also loved those moments where you saw those women. You're breaking down boundaries, building them together.
It was such a conflict of having, you know, like you want to stay, you know, faithful to Candy. She's the person that you started all of this with. And so I thought you did a great job of showing that conflict of like, and having us, you know, just cringing, going, oh, how can this be a happy ending? How can Candy, like, because is she going to come back, or how can she come back? And how can Tony fit into this? Can there be two guitars?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that bands deal with. If you look at even some really big bands, like the lineup sometimes change, like people come in and out. One of my favorite examples, and this is old school, is Genesis. Like people who saw Genesis or listened to Genesis when Peter Gabriel was the lead singer could never picture anyone else in that role until he left and Phil Collins stepped in. It was just like you could just
was the original person of Genesis.
Yes. And it's like two totally different groups. It's like two totally different groups, and they had totally different levels of. They were both super successful, but like another one is Destiny's Child. Like Destiny's Child's lineup changed, I don't know, 2 or 3 times before they landed on the 3 that took off. So it happens, and when you start out singing in, you know, coffee shops and busking on the street as a trio or a quartet, and something happens that brings you some success, you go, yeah, okay, we're on this road together. We're together. We're a family. And then personalities and egos and circumstances come in and things happen. And somebody wants to be the main songwriter. Somebody wants to have their vote count more than others. And, there's tensions, especially when you hit the road and you're on a bus or whatever, touring together, constantly together. Like that's a lot of tension.
Yeah. People's egos get turned up.
Egos get turned up, or they start feeling left out, or whatever it is. It's just family dynamics. It's just basic family dynamics. And so, yeah, having Candy throw a wrench into everything that they're trying to do, they're like, yeah, we love you, but we hate you right now. Like, you're really messing this up for us. All the stuff that we worked for. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. Tony's part in the beginning when she was just trying to play for one of the characters, and I forget his name. I think it was Jerry. And he was kind of a jerk and just wanted her to be quiet and not say anything and not speak up. And that's kind of her journey too, to just kind of get out there, speak her mind, and stand in her place. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting that you put that in there. Do you see a lot of that still in the music industry where people are just like, you just kowtow to my ego and,
Yeah, stay in your lane kind of thing. Especially for women musicians, female musicians in that setting, because the studio is still a very patriarchal domain. When I was doing research for the different members, just looking at I watched the Go-Go's documentary, and I read the drummer from Hole, her bio, and the stuff that they the Go-Go's really took me out there, because I remember them being poppy. I think of them as a poppy, sort of. I don't want to insult them, but just sort of bubblegum, fun, summery kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, the LA punk band. They were a full-on punk band playing in Los Angeles punk clubs. And somebody's like, oh, you're a bunch of cute girls and your songs are decent. Let's slow them down and we're turning them into pop songs. Their biggest hits were really fast, hard-hitting punk songs when they first started out. But they took them into the through the machine and turned them into these we're laughing on the beach in our little rompers and stuff, and totally changed their image, changed their sound, and they kept trying to push back against that, and they were like, nope, that's who you are. That's your image. That's what we're selling. Nobody's going to buy you as a hardcore punk band, so.
And I loved him like that. We got the beat.
Yeah. That's all I because it was super fast. You listen to those songs. Was it that one? And that was the first one. There was another one they had, and I was like, that was a punk song. And then I sped it up in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, it is,
So I don't give away our ages, but we all listened to the Go-Go's in high school.
I listened to everything from every era. So I forget sometimes what's from where. I was listening to Steely Dan the other day because I was listening to Steve Gadd, the drummer, who played with them a bunch of times just for Kayla's book. And I was like, oh wow, this was 50 years ago or whatever. Wow. But it's this is music to me is timeless. Wow.
We have a question. Chelsea Walters asked, how long does it usually take you to write a book?
This one took me a long time.
It's a big book.
Big book. It's the biggest. I think it's definitely the longest single book that I've written. But this one, I couldn't even tell you how long it took. Usually when I'm writing my normal 60, 80K, I can fast draft something in a week and then let it sit for a while and then tinker with it however long I think I need to tinker with it. I can do a novella in a few days. I can do a short contemporary.
I'm jealous.
That's amazing.
Just fast drafting, not start to finish. It's ready to go. Not like that. But but when I get into that zone, I tend to write fast. Yeah.
And what's the word count on this book?
What is it? 115, 110, something like that. I think.
Really?
Way more than it used to be.
I thought it was more because it's a giant.
It's thick.
Could be more. I don't remember where it ended up because I think added and taken and subtracted.
Yeah. I think this one was 90, and look at it's way.
Maybe it's bigger than I thought. Yeah.
It didn't feel it. It felt so quick.
Yeah. It did.
I read it in 2 days.
I read it in 2 days too.
Who was it? I think it was Carrie Ann Ryan that told me she read it overnight, and I was like, "What?
Wow,
what?" That just blows my mind. I mean, it's a huge compliment to me when people say that they read it fast because it is so thick. And I was like, "Man, it's going to take people a week or two to get through this," and they're like, "Nope, I read it. I'm done." I'm like, okay.
I know it's probably a little disappointing for you as an author. It's like, okay, well, now I guess I got to write the next one really quick.
Was this the original title, or did you have a different title?
No, the book went through several personality changes because there's a romance in it, but it's not a romance, like a straight up romance, because it's all the found family stuff and all the, heroine's journey stuff. So originally I thought that I was going to write a spicier book. So the original title was Celebrity Skin.
Oh, wow.
Keeping and using for something else. but yeah, I was like,
it's a good title.
Yeah, it's a good title. And it's a reference to whole. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be one of those books. And then I was like, you know what? It's really not, because this is more about Toni and her journey to herself. So that doesn't fit. And we agreed after a long time of me arguing. And they were like, this is not the book you think it is. I'm like, okay. So then we went back and forth with different things. But I love the title, and I love what Sourcebooks did with the covers as well.
It's gorgeous.
Have you seen the second cover?
No. Show us.
I've seen it. I must be special. How have I seen it? I've seen it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Oh my God, I love it. It's Kayla.
It's so cool.
It's Kayla. Yeah, I love it. So I'm excited.
So which book are you working on right now?
I'm finishing up revisions on this one, Gwitham. The first book is Squishy, the girl with stars in her eyes. This one is the girl with rhythm in her heart, so it's Gwitham. That's a lot to say. But yeah, working on Kayla's book, and I think her hero Ty is probably my favorite hero that I've ever written. He's amazing, and he's perfect for her. They're really good together.
When is it out?
Next spring, summer. I don't think we have an actual date yet, because the cover came out a little early, and I think they just sort of threw a date on there. So, but I think it's something like late spring, early summer.
Okay, very cool.
That's a fantastic cover. And I have to say, I listened to some of the book on audio too, and I just loved your narrators for the book.
Oh, cool!
Awesome. And did you get to pick them, or how did it work? Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I was really excited because I'd worked with Alexander Sendiz before. He did my last duet, the Frankie and Johnny series.
Oh, he's so great.
Like, he's amazing. And I was like, we're friends. Like, I text him all the time. His wife and I are like BFFs. So I was like, hey, I have this book coming out. If I have any sway at all, I'm going to put your name in there to do Seb, because he's Seb in my head sounds like Alex. And so they said, yeah. And then at first they gave him the book by himself. And I was like, no, we can't do that. I love Alex, but he can't be Toni. So then they were like, okay, well, let's listen to some people. And Tamika, I just thought she was Toni. Like, as soon as she opened her mouth, I was like, oh my gosh, that's her. So I was really, really excited to get them both on the project.
They sounded fantastic together. I love them.
Yeah, they're really good.
Will they do the next book together?
I don't think Alex will. Tamika might. Not sure, but I'll have Alex back for something else. I don't think he can voice the character that's in book 2. I have something else in mind, because he's got a very distinctive sound, and I'm like, I love it. He has a very distinctive sound. So I think I'm going a different direction for that. Well, if they let me, but we'll see. But yeah,
very cool. Are you a plotter or a pantser?
I'm a bit of both. I hate plotting. Like, I can't even write an outline. It's like, it messes me up. So I write kind of visually and orally. So I will let a story marinate in my brain for weeks, months, whatever, before I write anything. Which is like, it's an interesting process with this series, because I'm living in this universe for such a long period of time, because there's 4 books. So I can't leave the universe, because otherwise I'd have to reintroduce myself to this increasingly growing cast of characters every time. So they're always there. Like, they're always talking, they're always playing, there's always stuff going on. And every once in a while I'll go, okay, let me jot that down. Like, oh, that was a cool piece of dialogue there, or whatever. But doing other things, life, other books, whatever, I still have to have it constantly in my head, which is new for me. Because usually when I finish something, I move on to the next thing, and then they live in my head, whatever those characters.
So there's 4 books?
Yeah, our books 3 and 4, are they TIFF? And
I thought there was 2.
No, it's Tony, Kayla, Tiff, and Lily.
Oh, okay, so you're doing the whole. Okay, because I didn't know, because when I was online, I saw book 1 of 2 on.
Oh yeah, they do that on Amazon, right, for the
Yeah.
series, because we don't have info on the other 2 books yet in the system.
Okay.
I think
Right.
we don't have titles yet. Well, we kind of do. Still working those out.
What about Jordan? Will he be in there anywhere?
Jordan's not going anywhere. I've had quite a few people ask me for a novella for him.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Some people ask for Candy's story. Like, even though she's still around, she's not going anywhere, but like they want some. And somebody asked me for Mo and Mary's prequel. Like, I was like,
oh my.
yes.
Right. So,
those are all great ideas.
They are great ideas. I was like, I hadn't even thought of that. I love Jordan Joe. Jordan came out of nowhere. You know, those characters that just sort of like throw themselves on the page, like, here I am, you know, and you're you're like, okay. Yeah, I didn't know anything about him. He was just their attorney. I didn't know he was Seb's best friend. I didn't know he was bi. I didn't know anything about him. He was just, I didn't know he was English. Like, I didn't know anything about him. He just opened his mouth and I was like, oh, okay, well, nice to meet you. Let's see what this is, you know. But yeah, I love those characters though. And I love when readers fall in love with them because they, you know, they're real. They become real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great to have him have his own story. Do you write I think you do write LGBTQ characters in your other books too, right?
Yeah, I have a few. My duet, the Frankie and Johnny duet, is an MM romance. I have a novella called Fast Forward, which is my other Norwegian rock star. Which it was a novella, but I wasn't sure if I was going to do a series with it, but I am going to do another book, a full length, this fall in that same universe, which will be fun. But yeah, I sort of go back and forth between straight romance and queer romance, but I always have queer characters in my books, even from like the very first one. They were there. I didn't even know that it was a thing not to do that. I write the worlds that I live in. I write diverse books just because that's what my life. So it didn't occur to me.
It's so well done because you don't announce them. You don't say, oh, by the way, this person's bisexual. The character says, you know, hey, oh, I hope you have a good time when you date with her, and he says, oh, or him.
Yeah,
I think that's fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah, it shouldn't be like the character shouldn't be all about whatever one, you know, their race or their sexual orientation or whatever it is. Like that's just a facet of who they are, and so that's how I try to write them.
Right.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Thanks.
Can I ask why Norwegian rock stars?
Well, that goes to Scum, the TV show that none of you have ever heard of.
Oh, yeah. So tell us about it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
It's funny. It's been off the air for 4 years now, the original. It was a Norwegian public television show aimed at teenagers. And as you know, as I'm a Norwegian teenager. And I think I was in the UK, and a friend of mine was like, oh, there's this really interesting show, you should check it out. And I was like, I don't speak Norwegian, but you know, they were like, you can pretty much grasp what it is, and they speak a lot of English on the show. And so I watched a couple of episodes, and it was cool, but it didn't really grab me. And then when I came home, I looked it up again, and I didn't realize what they were doing was, and this will probably give you a clue as to why my series is the way it is. They had this whole sense of verisimilitude with the series, where at each of the main characters had their own social media accounts. They released clips at different points during the week. Like at any time, there could be a clip that comes out with the conversation between characters or something at a party or whatever it is. So you were constantly on the lookout for content.
Oh.
And then on Friday, they would compile whatever clips there were that week, and that would be the episode. But you had text messages, you had Instagram posts, you had Facebook posts, you had all kinds of stuff going on between these characters all week long. And you were like, and so you felt like you knew them, right? You know, and it became really popular in the 3rd season, and it spawned, I think, 8 different international versions. There's like a Italian one, French, Belgium, Netherlands. There's a US version that was in Austin. So like it just became this huge thing to the point where, like, you know, those Entertainment Weekly polls, like your favorite TV couple, they won. They won this poll with one of their couples beating like The Walking Dead and Outlander and all this other stuff. It was like, and people were like, what is this show? Who are these people? Like, what is this? But I learned Norwegian so I could watch it because there were no
my God,
subtitles and stuff. So yeah, it was intense, but it really, really influenced, it like really gave me ideas about how you could tell a story. in this sort of like immersive way. And I was like, well, how can I translate that to books? And so that's what the Lilies.
That's blurring the lines between reality.
Yeah.
That is really cool. And you did do a great job with that with the Lilies too. I was like,
we have a question. We have a question. Ann Ivy wants to know, what's the best advice you've been given as a writer, and what's the worst?
That's a great question, Ann.
It is a very good question. We could all answer that question.
Yeah. Right. All have different answers too.
Right.
I think the best advice that I got, because I was not a romance reader when I accidentally wrote my first romance.
You accidentally wrote it.
Was to read in my genre, because, and it's true for subgenres as well. If you want to write romantic suspense, you better read some romantic suspense, because to me it was like, oh, I can't read that because I'll be influenced by it and my voice will be tainted because I'll, and that's just, no, that's not how it works. You want to know what the genre expectations are, what the reader expectations are. And so for me, I think I just devour everything that I can now, the worst bit of advice, I'm trying to think, I don't know. I think the one that really bothers me is when people say, write what you know. Not because you shouldn't do that, but because you shouldn't only do that. I think that as an author, you should challenge yourself and you should push yourself outside of your comfort zone. If you're, a musician and you only ever write about music, it's cool, but like as an author, I think I like to stretch. I mean, I've written hockey romance. I love hockey. I don't play hockey, but I love it. And it was fun to write hockey and to learn about that world. So yeah, I think that was probably not the worst, but like the one that I really don't always subscribe to.
Well, and I always think
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, I just had someone ask me about that very thing in an interview yesterday for Hallmark, and I said, I write murder mysteries. That's not what I know. I haven't murdered anyone, as far as you don't know.
Right.
So.
I know. It's like the same here, Jenny. Like my books are always really dark and have all these really dark things happen. And I'm usually a very positive, upbeat person. So.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an odd piece of advice. I mean, I understand what they mean when they say it, but yeah.
Well, and I also think like to be a writer, you have to be curious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Curious about like other people and things that you don't know. And I think I love reading when I learn something. Like I learned so much about the music industry. Like, I never like a hired gun. Oh, okay. I didn't know that's what that was called, or like there's just, it's in a way educational, but like entertaining at the same time. So like, it wasn't like a lecture,
Yeah, I didn't want that. Right, I wanted to invite the reader into the world without, I know, that scene in the studio that you talked about earlier, Diana, I had actually told my dad about that scene when I was writing it. And I was like, yeah, and then this happens and this happens. And then they're doing this on the board. And he's like, you might want to dial that back a little bit. He's like, you're getting a little too technically granular there. Like, you're going to lose anyone who's never done that. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. So I pulled it back, hopefully enough for people who were not.
You did perfect. You did perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really great.
I had a question kind of about that. It felt like, especially with the when they were doing all the auditions, that it's really a small world. Like people really know each other in the world. Is that true? Like
it is. It's okay, so you like Philadelphia, we have our pocket here. Everyone knows her. And there's just pockets within the pockets. Like there's the West Philadelphia scene, there's the Center City scene, whatever it is. But you're aware of the other musicians, there are places that like musicians will play in certain neighborhoods, but will never come to another neighborhood to play. So, and the same thing in London. When I played in London a lot, it was like, I'd have a show north of the river. And then if I had a show south of the river, like the people from the north of the river would not come to the show in the south of the river, stuff like that. So it's like very pockety. So you have like session musicians in Philadelphia who play at all the sessions and everybody knows them. New York is really close. So some of those session musicians work in New York. So they know them. So they know the ones up there. So it becomes like these ever increasing circles of notoriety. And then you get the people who like Steve Gadd, I was talking about earlier, the drummer, who I think he was from New York. And during that period of time, he was playing on everything all over the country and in London because he had a sound and everyone knew he would come in and give them that extra little flavor or whatever. So he was like one of those top dollar hired guns that just would come in, nail the performance, elevate your track, and then leave. You know, he wasn't like actually in the band. So it's definitely, yeah, like there are session musicians who are brought in specifically because of who they are and how they play and their style and stuff. And there are others who are just in the region who are reliable and stuff. So there's like levels to it. But yeah, it can be a small world.
So I have to say, when you're talking about that, I really did want that Jerry guy to kind of.
I know, right?
I wanted either, them to slip in the, when Seb went in there to like slip her credit in, or put in her, that was her beats later, and then we found out that it really was her on there. Or
I'm not done with that.
Okay.
Nothing else. I mean, there's like the thing about writing a series like this is that I get to pull those threads through, those little things through. So like they're on the same label for one, and so there's going to be more of that. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting being a legacy artist like that, and then having a newcomer come in. So his resentment, I kind of understand it, even though he's just a jerk in general. But like I understand his feeling like, I've been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years, and you come in here, like that kind of thing. And also she's a girl, and he just doesn't have any respect for women as musicians. If she were a background singer, it would be totally different. But as a musician, especially a guitarist, he's like, yeah, I want to give me somebody who can actually play without, just dismissing her entirely, which happens.
And is that still happening right now?
Yeah. It's so fun. Like doing research for this, and it's like we're in a period now where women are being celebrated more in every field. Like you're finding out that things that were accomplished that you didn't even know they did.
Right.
And so like there are women who played on like seminal tracks that I had no idea were on it. You know what I mean? It's like who is this person? I've never heard of this person before. How do I not know this person's name? I know Steve Gadd. You know what I mean? Because like he's like celebrated, but I don't know these other people. So yeah, there's definitely a movement happening to recognize them. But yeah, there's still pushback. There's still pushback.
One thing I really liked too about this, because I felt like you were setting it up that Tony was either going to have to choose between Factory Sound or the band. And I was like, I wanted to have both, and I was like, how is she going to choose? Like the more she practiced with the Lilies and the more they became her family, I was like, how can she but then that's her dream was Factory Sound. And like, I'm like, oh my gosh, how is this, how is Xio going to give us a happily ever after, and I'm so happy it like how it worked out at the end. You know what I mean? Like that was so satisfying to my heart, that she was able to have both things,
Well, that was her perspective. Was that I have to choose. Even with like the career thing, it was like I can't have any sort of notoriety at all because that path just leads to destruction. I have to stay under the radar, but somehow make my name for myself. Like she was really stuck in that. Like I can't have the cake and eat it too. And Richie and everyone else was like, why not? Like why can't you?
Right.
And that was part of her journey.
Yeah. She's like, oh yeah, like realizing that they could direct their own path. These other women were like, and Seb and Jordan and their supporting players were like, we got you. Like the way you want to do it, that's how we're going to try to do it. We have to like really work within the confines of this contract, but we'll try to figure out how to get you guys what you want, the way you want it. And so I think that was an important lesson for her to learn.
And Xio, we have another question. And before I ask the question, make sure you tell everybody how many books you actually have out right now. And then the question is, you're a published author. What's the best thing about being published, and what's not so great?
These questions, wow.
I know, right?
I think I have 9 books. I don't know. I'm really bad at this. I'm a bad business person when it comes to the authoring thing. I have 4 or 5 novellas and four or so novels, including Squishy. I was self-published until this book. I'd never worked with an editor before this book. I'd never done any of the stuff that authors are supposed to do. So don't be like me. I did most of my own covers, all that stuff.
Oh
so
my gosh, your
It
Stewart
worked for you.
covers. Yeah, your Stewart. Guys, you need to check out her covers. I can't remember the titles, but the ones with Stewart on them.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah,
I
that one I did not do. I
RT.
cannot take credit for that. That was
Those are gorgeous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that was fun.
That was at an RT conference where we met him, right?
Yeah, Camden. Yeah, I brought him. Yeah, I brought him to RT, not realizing how wild that was going to be. He and I were both like, "What was happening?" Yeah, but yeah, I think I don't know. The best thing about being a published author is making people smile or laugh or cry or feel other emotions for a little while that they wouldn't have before they read your book. I love touching people. Like, I mean, I'm a songwriter, and with a song, you get to do that for 3 or 4 minutes. I had one listener, one guy outside of London. I had a show, and he was a little tipsy, and he came up to me after the show, and he was like, "I listen to you every night before I go to bed." And I was like, okay. And my bass player was like, "That's cool." He kind of put his arm around me and pulled me away. And then literally like a year or so later, I went back to that same pub and played again. And he came up to me after the show, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this has been bugging me for like a year. I really didn't mean it to sound like that. What I meant was you wrote this song, and it really, at a time in my life, I needed to hear those words. And so it like became my daily, like, affirmation thing." I was like, "Oh my God." So I'm like crying, he's crying, So like to have a book where you can tell an entire story and you can give a character arcs, like emotional journeys, and give them happily ever afters and all that stuff, which you can't always do in a song because they're not, I don't write happy songs. But that for me, I think, is the most fulfilling thing about being a published author. I mean, I write fan fiction as well. And so that was like, I think the thing I loved about fan fiction is that you put up a chapter and immediately you get comments at the bottom of people saying, "Oh my God, I'm crying, I'm laughing, I'm horny," whatever it is. Like they would just tell you in the comments. And so, for me, like seeing the reviews and seeing the responses to this book, especially, like there were reels. People did reels on Instagram.
Wow.
Like, with music and stuff. And just that, I was like literally watching my Instagram crying one night. My husband was like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, she played when she was 16 and she was in a band and this reminded her of that. And she did this thing. It was just like so touching. It's so touching to me.
That's neat.
So what is your love? What do you love more? Writing books or writing and performing music? Is there?
You're going to make her choose?
I don't know.
I have the same reaction, I think, to it, because performing is a little difficult for me. I love when I'm up there. It's the whole getting to the stage thing. I have like horrible stage fright. I don't eat before performances, and I don't eat before events like this. Like I get really, really nervous. So like, yeah, like the first song or so, I always know to stack my set a certain way, because that first song, I'm going to have so many nerves that my voice is going to warble and all kinds of stuff. So like then I get that first little polite applause and my band settles in and we're like, okay. And then we go into something that we love to jam to. And then I sort of ease into it that way. And then by the end, I'm like, let's go another hour, It's like that. And I think writing is the same way. Like I don't mind the fast drafting. That's like when the story is just poured out of you. But I want to have to go back to it and like edit and tweak and all that stuff. Am I messing it up? Should I leave that in? Should I kill my darlings? Should I, like that part. That's when the nerves come in, because it's like, I don't know if I'm telling the story that I want to tell. And so they're pretty equal though. I think at this point, if you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I would have said music. But I think at this point they're pretty on equal playing ground.
That's cool.
Well, that's neat. That's you're really lucky you get to do both of those.
Right?
Things. Yeah.
People are like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a musician." They're like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Author." And they're like, "You are like your career," like telling people that you have a career in the arts.
Yeah.
And well, you say, "What do you do?" I'm an author. What do you do for a living?
Right.
That's what I get when I say I'm a musician. I'm like, I'm a singer. Oh, cool. What do you do for a living? And it's like, well,
that's it.
People do have careers in music. They do have careers in publishing. They have careers in art. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes they'll say I'm an author, and they'll say, "Do you have any books published?" Well, yes, I do.
Like, here they all are.
Right?
Let me give you the link to
Right.
Amazon.
Now I can say go to Target and pick, or go to Barnes and Noble. You should find it. You know.
Yeah, I've had people. They're on Amazon.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're on Amazon. You know.
Yeah, this book is the first one where like people that I went to high school with are like buying it and tagging me in photos, or people that like I barely know are like, my friend wrote a book, and I'm like, you know, like, I mean, you know, you expect that. It's fun.
It came out in hardback too, right?
Yeah, that's what this is. This is the book of the month one. Yeah, more tears.
Wow.
More tears were shed because the Target one, the Target book club I knew about for a bit, and they sent me like the tip-in pages to sign. I had 3,000 tip-in pages to sign.
Wow.
And I was that for me, that was like, okay, this book, that's like the pinnacle for this book. Like nothing. And then they were like, oh, and you're going to be a book of the month add-on. And I was like, wait, I remember book of the month. I didn't know that they were still around. And so I was like, that's really cool. And they were like, are you sitting down? And then they told me, and then they're like, yes. And it's hardcover. I think I did one of those like blink, blink, you know, moments. And I was like, wait, what?
Cool.
It's amazing. So I have like 3 of these. I keep buying
them.
I'm like,
love it.
So, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. And those readers are so different from the ones that like the romance readers, because it's not, I don't know if they have a lot of romance in Book of the Month. Those readers are like voracious and really vocal and really supportive and loving. It's really cool.
Really?
It's like a whole little tribe.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like they tag you with the little Book of the Month tags and stuff.
Oh, what a neat experience.
Yeah, it's been really like these really beautiful artsy photos and stuff. I'm like, wow, you know, it's like, it's really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Well, you know, it's so lovely chatting with you. I can't believe we're actually we're coming up on 60 minutes, and we got to cut it off before then because of our Instagram. We won't be able to post the whole thing on Instagram. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll, you know, come back when you publish the next one, and you know, we'd love to chat again if it's okay.
Oh,
yeah, we can talk about Kayla.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so what
okay. So the next book,
we got questions first, right?
Yeah,
questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll do the questions. The questions, because for those of you that this is your first time, to introduce the new book, we always have, you know, our poll questions, and then we have a question for you to guess. We're not going to give you the answers, but we're going to give you our answers, and then you have to guess which of the authors answered this way, and then it will have something to do with the introducing the new book. So our question is about what musical instrument each of us played. And one of us played, I don't actually have the notes. I don't know why.
Sharon. Sharon has the notes.
Sharon, take over from now. Because
okay. So the question is, which one of us plays which musical instrument? And we'll put this up on a poll on the Facebook group. Okay, so which one of us played the clarinet? Which one plays the flute? Who plays the guitar? And who plays the piano?
Between the 4 of us, you have to guess which is which.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
All right.
And so for our next book, we are going to give you a little hint. Ready?
Yeah. I love these hats, you guys.
Okay. And then I have the picture of the book cover, but I don't know who's actually introducing the book.
Do you have? I don't know.
We're so organized.
Tell me when you're ready, and I will put up the book, because we're super excited about this one.
We are.
We're actually going to read Diana's next book.
Yay! I'm so excited, you guys. I seriously, I'm going to cry. You have no idea. I'm so excited to share this with all of you.
So give us a little hint about what Broken Promises is about.
Well, I gave you a hint at the beginning of the broadcast. If you think luring a serial killer out to the woods is a bad idea, try doing it with your ex-fiance.
I can't wait. I
can't wait to read this book.
I know. I'm so excited.
Well, I can't wait to talk to all of you about it next month. And we've got only a couple seconds before we hit that 60 mark, so we got to wrap this up, ladies.
All righty, bye everybody.
Thank you for stopping by, and thank you for your questions. And we will be picking a winner and giving you all a gift card, or not all of you, one of you a gift card. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.